Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Continuing our discussion with the Anbiya alayhi salatu wassalam, those of the Anbiya alayhi salatu wassalam that lived in the area and vicinity of the Masjid al-Aqsa. When the Masjid al-Aqsa is discussed, it is not discussed in its isolation, but rather al-Ardul Muqaddasa is a source of discussion. Al-Ardul Muqaddasa is in reference to the land around Masjid al-Aqsa. And some scholars say it extends up to 200 to 300 square kilometers of land that surrounds Masjid al-Aqsa, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises in the Quran, Barakna hawla. Now, if you take this land into context, many Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam lived in this area. And in the previous discussion, we had spoken about Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam had a contemporary, a Nabi of Allah who lived side by side with him, but on the opposite bank of the River Jordan, no more than 100 kilometers as the walking distance goes from Baytul Maqdis, also in the land of Al-Ardul Muqaddasa. And this, in reference, who I'm referring to, is Nabi Lut alayhi salatu wasalam, who lived at the same time of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, and according to some narrations was either a cousin, a nephew, a close relative of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. What was different about Lut alayhi salam is that he resided in a community. The communities who are known from a biblical point of view of Sodom and Gomorrah, two villages that had indulged and engaged in the most lewd and evil of actions known to mankind, that is the action of sodomy and the action of homosexuality. And in the context of the time that we are living in, and the discussion of Al-Quds and Masjid al-Aqsa, it also is worthy of mentioning that these Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam, working amongst the people in that area, prove to us that from time to time, not only good people were gathered to that area, but the evil people that were gathered in that area, like the people of Lut alayhi salatu wasalam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from time to time cleanse the area of such negative and evil people. Continuing with our discussion, the Malaika had come to Ibrahim alayhi salam and given him the glad tidings of a child to be born to him, and that is the child Ishaq to be born to his wife Sarah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even speaks of the reaction of Sarah, that she now laughs to herself. How is this possible? Wa ana ajuzun, and I'm an old lady. The Malaika respond by saying that this is the will and the decree of Allah. Thereafter, the Malaika tell Ibrahim alayhi salam that we are here to destroy the people of Lut. Ibrahim alayhi salam, expressing concern for Lut, he now is informed by the Malaika that we know that Lut is in that village and we are going to destroy the evildoers. The next day, the Malaika go to the village of Lut alayhi salatu wasalam, and they are in the form of young men. And Lut alayhi salam, not knowing that they are malaika, that they are angels, he attempts to hide them. The wife of Lut alayhi salam, now being at one and in cahoots with those who are the perpetrators of the evil in her community, go and inform them. They surround the house of Lut alayhi salam. Give us access to your guests, and we do not care, for your ways, and we are prepared to kill you, O Lut, if you do not give access to our guests, to your guests. Lut alayhi salatu wasalam responds to his people that haulai banati, that don't you see the woman in our village? They are my daughters, referring to that I'm a senior here. They may not be my biological daughters, but they are in the position of being my daughters. Why do you not fulfill your desires with them, with women? And you are insistent on approaching men. Eventually, the angels tell Lut alayhi salam, do not be concerned about us. We are the Malaika, we are the angels of Allah to come to inform you to leave this village tonight, for we are going to destroy it. Lut alayhi salatu wasalam, accompanied by a handful of the believers, including his daughters, but not including his wife, who is in cahoots with the evildoers, they leave the city, and the very next evening, or the same evening, that entire area of those who perpetrate the heinous act of homosexuality, they are now destroyed. Now, whilst this is an important reading in the Quran Kareem, which by the way appears in practically every biblical text and is the original instruction of all those who subscribe to wahi and revelation, even though we believe that their wahi and revelation in their hands once upon a time was genuine, but in the current format is adulterated, they no doubt have relived the lesson of Sodom and Gomorrah, that the people who are now engaged in this particular activity were destroyed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It appears in their scriptures as well. Lut والسلام, and the believers in him were saved. There's also a very subtle lesson here that we need to appreciate from time to time, that those who now engage in any evil activities in the land of Al-Ardul Muqaddasa, in the vicinity of Masjid Al-Aqsa and the surrounds thereof, they may get away with it for a while. They may get away with it for a generation or two. But a time will come that their activities will not be tolerated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And whilst this could be true of any area of the world, it would be especially true and especially genuine where it comes to Al-Ardul Muqaddasa, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed the world that not only was the actions not tolerated in this land, but the type of punishment that came to him was such that never ever befell anybody before in human history, and with all likelihood would not fall anyone in human history after that particular day. And showing us that this particular action or any act of personal oppression and evil and lewdness, the very nature of Al-Ardul Muqaddasa is that it will expel that action and immediately call the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the fore, and the protection of Ardul Muqaddasa and the protection of the izzah and the honor of the Nabi at that time, in the case of Lut alayhi salatu wassalam, will happen at the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said something similar with regards to Medina, by describing Madinatul Munawwara as the city of Medina. Al-Kiru is a furnace, and the job of a furnace is to remove impurities, iron ore that's still in a stone form. When it's thrown inside a furnace, what happens to it? It immediately smelters, and the iron is separated from the muck and the dirt. So too it can be observed in Al-Ardul Muqaddasa as well, that whilst the enemies of Allah may take it from time to time, we saw it in previous history in the form of the Romans, we saw it in the form of the people of Nebuchadnezzar, the Zoroastrian fire worshippers that came and expelled the Bani Israel after the Romans. We've seen this here from time to time. We've even seen it in the time in the people of Lut alayhi salatu wassalam, that although such people may exist and they may continue to work and do their negative activities in the lands of Al-Ardul Muqaddasa, but a time will come wherein Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will expel them to purify that land in His own right. This should serve as a solace for us living in our time, that Al-Ardul Muqaddasa may be captured by a nation, by a community that is far away from the teachings of their ancestors, and everything that they preach is nothing but hedonism, Zionism, and anti-deen. It's not even Judaism for that matter. Looking at incidences like Lut alayhi salatu wassalam and the destruction of his people, and the other Anbiya alayhi salatu wassalam who were saved, or their people were saved from the heinous ways of the people who persecuted them, it gives us solace, like how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dealt with the people of Lut alayhi salatu wassalam. So too would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala one day purify al-ardul muqaddasa from the ways of the people who violate the common essence of humanity, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will eventually restore the greatness of that land, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will once again bring the teachings of the Anbiya alayhi salatu wassalam in their pristine form to the land of al-ardul muqaddasa. So this is the incident of Lut alayhi salatu wassalam, who lived just about 100 kilometers away from Baytul Maqdis, and that is by the road journey. If one has to look at how the crow flies, the air journey, it's no more than 35 kilometers away from Al-Ardul Muqaddasa or Masjid Al-Aqsa, which was the home of Lut alayhi salatu wasalam, whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved and destroyed his people. And today the landmark of that destruction is the Dead Sea, which lies but a few kilometers away from Baytul Maqdis. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspire us and give us tawfiq to benefit from these important lessons.
واسأل عنا له منا قل علامات انت تدريبا ندعيكم غايب عنا والحكم ميوز في الغيبة.